Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be going through the practice week for BBS013-1 Foundations of Business Management. So you'll be actually put into groups and carrying out the practice week activity, so addressing the practice week task in your seminars for week 6. But it's strongly advised to obviously do a bit of preparation before the seminar and before the group activity. So you have this briefing video, you have the practice week document itself, the case study data as well. So it would be a good idea just to go through all three of those things prior to going to the live seminar and working on the task in your groups. So what we're going to do in this video is to go through two major areas. So we're going to be taking a brief look at the Luton Town Residences case study, as well as giving a few pointers on how you want to treat the case study data itself, as well as going through step by step the practice week task and all of the elements of that task. So if we start with the case study, so you are going to find the case study on the BBS show. So under week 6, which is the practice week, you'll see a file labeled LTR Case Study Data version 1, or at least you will find that initially. That may change as time goes on. It may be replaced with version 2, version 3, version 4, and so on. And the LTR in this case just stands for the name of the organization that we're focusing on, which is Luton Town Residences. So the first thing that you really do want to do is make sure you do understand that this is simulated rather than real data. So there isn't actually a real organization called Luton Town Residences. So you're not going to be able to do a Google search or an online web search and find company profiles or company information. And we're not looking for that kind of background research. We actually want you to focus on the data provided within the case study document itself. So it's simulated data, not real data. It's presented in a very particular way, in a messy fashion, in order to allow you guys to parse, organize, and structure the information itself. But all the information you need is within the case study data document. The second thing I want to point out is that we did say that this is version 1, which is currently on the BBS show, and that's because it may well end up changing and evolving, and that's because I am going to encourage you guys that if there's a particular recommendation you want to give or a particular direction that you want to take the practice week task or later activities in, then you simply email me with the question, and then you can have the response added on within the case study data. Then that will move it up to version 2, version 3, version 4, and so on. So nothing is going to change that's already present in the case study document, but depending on the direction that different students may want to take their work in, there may be additional information provided. But don't worry in terms of basing your work on the version 1 document. Nothing is going to change. There's not going to be any contradictory information added, but there may be some additional expanded information added. And just the last thing with regards to the case study, and this is something that we've had some issues with in the past, please don't just copy and paste anything from the document. You have to understand that the information is presented in the document in the form of a messy case study. So this is data which is given, which is not structured, which is not organized, and that's because you're expected to develop your skills in parsing, understanding, and structuring raw information and presenting it in a processed fashion. That's a really important skill to develop, not just for academia and for your academic studies, but also for your professional studies as well. If you already have some work experience, then you may well be aware that one of the more common skills that you'll apply, particularly as you start moving into managerial and supervisory roles, is being presented with a mass of confusing information, and having to understand a situation, structure your understanding of what's happening, and then be able to concisely explain a particular perspective or a particular reading of a situation in order to make a decision. So it's a really common and important professional skill to develop, as well as an academic skill. If you're just copying and pasting from the raw information in the case study document, you're not developing that skill, and also you're not going to create particularly good work, whether it's an assessment or whether it's the practice week task. The information presented is deliberately in a messy form, so you all need to process that information and express it in your own words in a more structured, logical manner. Right, so that's the overview of how you want to go through and understand the case study document. I strongly advise everyone to spend a bit of time before the seminars, if possible, going through the case study document, so you have an understanding of the organization and the problem that you're going to be confronted with. Now we're going to move on to the practice week task itself. So what you have is a practice week LTR worksheet, which you're going to be going through and completing as a group. Then that will then be uploaded in the fourth item we can see on the screen. So practice week LTR worksheet submission link. Just something that we want to put up there and make it very clear that only a single student in each group should upload the completed worksheet. We don't want every student to upload a copy of the worksheet. It should be the output of a group effort. It is a large, complex task. It's very difficult for someone to do it individually within the time allotted. So it should be a group effort, and a single student should be uploading the worksheet. You will have a collective feedback. So because the email addresses of everyone in the group is included in the worksheet, everyone will get emailed feedback with regards to the worksheet, but not everyone should be uploading the worksheet. As we've just said, please don't just copy and paste anything in the case study data document. That defeats the purpose of providing that case study data to you guys. You should be approaching it to try and organize and structure the information that you have. So if we move on and take a look at the task itself, so Luton Town residences, or LTR, have some significant communication and collaboration problems, which are detailed in the case study data document. And the senior management team at LTR are asking you to start working on a project to implement a new communication and collaboration platform. While the manner that we would actually go about developing a project, if you've been following along with the lectures on project management, would be, in order to get a project approved, you would actually develop a business case. However, before you can develop a business case, there's quite a few things that you need to identify and establish, and then you can build a business case on top of that. So what the practice week task is to do is the very first step in any kind of project. You start with the define stage, the first of the 4 Ds, and you actually gather information, you gather requirements, you establish the problem, and you collect information about potential solutions. So this is the very first step in any kind of project management cycle, the information gathering stage. And that's what the practice week task is going to be. So we're going to identify and explore the problem within the case study data at LTR with regards to communication and collaboration issues. And then we're going to gather information, gather requirements. We're going to gather information about potential solutions as well. We have 5 distinct sections of the worksheet to complete. So we're just going to run through them turn by turn. The first section is by far the easiest. So this is just procedural stuff. You're asked to list all of the group members by name, as well as the group member student email addresses. So those are your @study.beds.ac.uk student addresses rather than your personal email addresses. So nice, easy first step in completing the worksheet itself. And then you go on to the second task in the worksheet, which is going to be establishing what the problems in Luton Town residences actually are with regards to communication and collaboration. So as we said before, the case study is simulated data rather than real world data, so there's no point in trying to Google the answer to this. You are going to have to dig into the actual case study data that's been provided and try and identify and summarize what the key issues are. So the very first thing you want to do is to try and look through the entire document and answer question 1, which is asking you to identify key issues which are causing unhappiness among staff members at LTR. And we do want you not just to list a few words here, but actually give a decent amount of detail about each issue. Once you have done that, and the issues are fairly clear, by the way, they are scattered throughout the case study data document, but they're fairly obvious. You're not likely to miss them as long as you are reading through the document carefully. The goal here isn't to try and trick you guys. It is just there. You just need to read through and think about what's actually being said at LTR. And the second question is another important stage whenever you're starting to develop a project to address an existing problem within an organization. We have to be clear about what the existing systems are. So this project is about trying to fix the communication and collaboration systems in LTR by proposing and implementing a new platform to use. So part of that is going to be really making sure we have an understanding of what's currently being used. So this is just a basic principle in any kind of organizational change or any kind of change within a business. If you're looking to introduce a new system or you're looking to introduce a new platform, the very first thing you want to do is really be clear and establish what's currently being done. So here you have different teams listed in the case study data document at LTR. So you need to list the different teams, identify the different teams, and then establish what communication and collaboration systems or platforms they're currently using. Any kind of project to implement a new system is potentially going to run into problems unless that project has a clear idea of what's currently being done. Once you have done that, we can move on to the third task the third part of the worksheet, which is going to be listing out the requirements for the new platform. So what we have in any project, you have different stakeholders. So in this case, the relevant stakeholders are actually the different internal teams within LTR. So the communications and collaboration platform is not intended to be used for communication outside of the organization. It's primarily for internal communication. So we have our different teams, including the senior management team, as the key stakeholders. So part of the initial work that has to be done in a project, part of the define stage, is actually gathering the requirements from all of the different stakeholders. So we have to understand what requirements mean. So at this stage, you may choose to actually find and recommend a system that meets that requirement, or you may choose to recommend a system that maybe doesn't meet all of the requirements but satisfies them as best you can. And that's because different stakeholders may well have requirements which are conflicting or contradictory. But what we need to do as a first step is actually just simply to gather together all of the requirements expressed by all of the different stakeholders. So you'll find all of this information in the case study. You just need to go through the case study document and then list all of the requirements you can find. So these are all of the requests or the things needed from the new communications and collaboration platform as expressed by the different staff members and different teams within LTR. So once you've done this, that means that we have established what the key issues currently are with LTR. Internally, we've established what the requirements and the requests are for a new platform. That means we need to move on to start actually listing and evaluating the different potential solutions you may wish to consider as a recommendation to actually fix the problem. So there's space on the worksheet for 4. I would recommend having a maximum of 4. You can use words features to add some more if you like, but I really wouldn't recommend that. You do have within the case study data document actually some suggestions that staff have made, so that's possibly a starting point. Or if you're familiar with or have done your own research and found a solution that you think that you fits the requirements, that's absolutely fine as well. So what you'll need to do here is obviously name your possible solution. So whether it's Microsoft Teams as a new platform, whether it's Slack as a new platform, or some other kind of platform, you want to list the names. You want to list what you think the relevant features are, so the core features of the program itself. You want to list the or you want to evaluate whether it meets the requirements that you listed in the previous table. You want to highlight any drawbacks or potential issues that you can foresee with using that as a potential solution. And then lastly, because in any kind of project, cost is one of our important constraints. Remember the triple constraints we discussed in the introduction to project management video are cost, quality, and time. So we do need to have an estimate of cost. So in this case, simply listing the per user cost to purchase. Once you have this evaluation of potential solutions table filled out, what you'll simply need to do to finish the practice week task and the practice week worksheet is to have a short written justification for a particular solution. So you essentially need to select one of the potential solutions that you've evaluated in the 4th table, and then in the 5th table you simply need to justify in written form why you think this is the best solution, why you think this meets all of the requirements, and why you think LTR should consider this as a way to solve the communication and collaboration problem. Once you have this and the group are happy with this, then you can upload using the Practice Week LTR worksheet submission link.